Hello everyone and welcome to another video about the Vuelta España 2022. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Gregor himself, Ewan Wilson. And Ewan, it's another tier list. It's another ranking.
Another Grand Tour, another tier list. We're going to base these teams based on our expectations, their previous results, and we will compare them based on their performance in this Vuelta a España. So, team number one is Bora Hansgrohe.
Oh, this one's quite interesting, isn't it? Sam Bennett did really well and then had to pull out. Jared Hindley, Giro Italia champion. We were hoping he was going to do a double Giro Welter, but yeah, Wilco Kelderman strong in some parts. Ewan, what do you think here?
I think it's hard because the stage wins came in unexpected areas.
Yeah.
Because the stage wins came from Sam Bennett in the sprints. Yes, Bennett's a great sprinter, but he has not been showing that form all year round. And given that they had a really good three-rider approach in the mountains with Hindley, a Giro champion, Kelderman, and Iyita, we were really optimistic. I just think they were fundamentally underwhelming in the mountains. Hindley just didn't have that killer shark instinct that we know from the Giro, and also lacked that stamina that we've seen him use so much at the Giro in 2020 and 2022. So I mean, I would say this is satisfied. They still got two stage wins. Let's not look past that. And the top 10 are juicy.
And moving on to the next one, Bike Exchange. This is like one of our first victims of the whole COVID. Simon Yates pulling out. It looked like it could be very interesting. One stage win. And Ewan, how you found that Vuelta España?
You know, once upon a time, Simon Yates was in this Vuelta a España. I often forget that he was here in the race, but he was doing fairly well. I think maybe a top five would have been within his grasp if it weren't for COVID. Caden Gross with a sprint stage win, that's definitely a huge boost for them. I mean, I don't know because they had Yates and this COVID and abandonment always makes it hard. So I would say room for improvement purely because I would have hoped for them to get a mountain stage breakaway victory. They've done it so much in the past in their previous iterations and they missed that this year.
No, I agree. I think it's just very unlucky with the Simon Yates. I think he could definitely been up there. But yeah, Lotto Soudal, we've not been too favorable about them. Yeah, there we go. Honestly, they should have brought your guy.
Exactly. Like the Vuelta a España is the race that you send your young riders to. I get it. Lee was sent to chase out the high scoring point classics all around sort of northern France and Belgium. In reality, they had Cedric Berlins here. Not that interesting. We missed Lotto Soudal. This is a team that are barely surviving. And I think they do deserve that place in were they even here. Speaking of which.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just going to put Kern here as well. Anything else? Oh, are we moving on to a more exciting team now? There we go. UAE Team Emirates, almost the carbon copy of Bahrain Victorious's performance last year. Third, fifth stage win on the final stage as well. Actually, one more stage, including that Marc Soler, and winning the team classification. I would say on the verge of legendary.
I would say it is. This was a barnstorming performance from UAE. Any team would love to go into a Grand Tour, win a breakaway stage, win a sprint stage, finish inside the podium, and have another rider in top 10 as well as the team classification. UAE did that. I remember when we had the preview, I was worried that they were going to glitch a bit because we've seen it before where if they ride without Pogacar, the tactics were a little bit all over the place. We saw maybe a little bit at the Giro where tactically they were a little bit questionable. Here they were good. They worked well. Ayuso got a podium. He is the youngest rider to finish on a podium at a Grand Tour in 100 years. It's fantastic stuff for UAE. And I mean, a real tick list, a real bucket list for a Grand Tour.
Yeah, precisely. Well, moving on to a team that hasn't been showing that kind of form. Actually, the lowest performers in terms of the Pro Cycling Stats ranking, Euskaltel Euskadi. Well, in a former iteration, they would be up there fighting for the GC win here with Sammy Sanchez. That's not the case. They had one day in the polka dot jersey, that big highlight, and I'm just going to put them in the bottom.
Yep. I agree.
It's disappointing because it's the pro continental teams. You want to see them really stick to the World Tour teams, but
I think this just goes to show that the domestic Spanish scene is not quite as high of a competitive level as Belgium, as France, as Italy, these other countries that bring so much to their pro continental teams that are so competitive. Nevertheless, is Movistar better for sure? They got Enric Mas on the podium in second place, and they got a number of top tens. However, Scott, I got to say, ¿Dónde es Alejandro Valverde? Where is he? He really wasn't there. He didn't really chase out a breakaway win. I was quite let down by him, but Enric Mas was solid and consistent.
Yeah, exactly. So what did we put them in last year?
Well, I mean, it's just a shame because they don't have that panache, but they still got second place. Like I say high achievers because it's second place. I think regardless, getting that is still impressive.
Yeah, it's just a bit underwhelming that he's finishing second once again. And we spoke about that as well. He's not really the world beater, and his own team says that as well. There was a point where we're like, oh, really push Remco Evenepoel, and he didn't really do it. So anyway, moving on. Cofidis, Ewan.
This team really was just Jesus Herrada, I think. Brian Cocard did pretty well in some sprints, but yeah, it just makes you realize that this team without Guillaume Martin, it's a little bit vapid.
So moving on to Astana, they had two former podium finishers, Vincenzo Nibali and Miguel Angel Lopez, who almost finished on the podium last year after rage quitting. Fourth, that was really it. Fourth, and then 4 top 3s.
They were very functional, weren't they? It's very like the Giro performance when Nibali came, he got 4th, didn't really contest the stage win, but he was there. They did the job to place him in the top 5. A lot of teams are searching out the top 5. It's really what Miguel Angel Lopez was capable of doing. I know he's had a strange season, but I think this is satisfied. If we saw Battistella or maybe Lutsenko get a stage win, I think maybe we could talk about high achievers, but they didn't. Superman Lopez just got a consistent top 5.
Moving on to a team that did get a win, EF Education Easy Post getting a win with Rigoberto Urán, completing his set of stages in Grand Tours. 9th place as well for the Colombian, and 2 days in the polka dot jersey as well. Ewan, you're a big fan of EF Education Easy Post. Was this enough to be high achievers, or was this?
I don't know. EF is always hard because
mixed bag, really.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a mixed bag. They sort of accidentally got in top 10 with Urán. I know he's intelligent enough, Riso, to realize that he was doing that, but it wasn't really pre-planned. He got a wonderful stage win. I think that's one of the most attritional stage wins of this race. It was really, really well done for him. But given how strong their start list was, EF did kind of let me down. I don't know. I think room for improvement may be a bit harsh, given that they got a top 10 and a stage. So I would say satisfied is an apt place to put them.
Moving on to a team that we normally, they drop back into that category again. Israel Premier Tech back to their normal form, not really doing much, you would say.
The problem with Lotto and Israel is that they face the same problem with points at the moment, is that because the Vuelta doesn't score that much points if you aren't involved in GC, they just gone to other races like the Tour of Britain and so forth. Their start list there was much stronger than their Vuelta start list, which seems ridiculous. Nowhere to be seen. This is classic Premier Tech here, and I believe that bottom bracket is for them, I'm afraid.
AG2R Citroën, you're in 8th place. That was really it, wasn't it? There wasn't much else to speak about in terms of AG2R Citroën. No stage wins like we've seen in the past.
Every Grand Tour has to have a team that sort of ghost rides into top 10 and doesn't sort of leave any trace otherwise. This Grand Tour's case is AG2R Citroën. O'Connor was really strong. He was up there in the mountain stages, but very under the radar, never really sort of captured the headlines. Clément Champoussin was strong in breakaways, but not strong enough to take a win. He was there on the stage with Urán. I think they should have got a stage. The AG2R Citroën over the past 2 years, since they've had that restructuring, have left almost every Grand Tour with a stage. They should have done that again.
But now moving on to a team that we're really excited about. Quickstep Alpha Vinyl winner Remco Evenepoel. They transformed the team. The team wasn't just the breakaway or the sprint. They really were a GC unit, don't you think?
Yep, they proved that they can win a Grand Tour, which has been the question mark for years. They did it strongly. Good support from plenty of the teammates, including Ilan van Wilder, had a really good coming of age ride at this Vuelta. Don't forget that Alaphilippe crashed out as well. So and Seri, actually, Peter Seri. So they were down personnel, but they still managed to control this race and deliver Remco Evenepoel his first Vuelta España victory, unlike reigning Tour de France champions Jumbo-Visma.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame that we know what we're going to be hinting at here, but it started brilliantly, winning the first stage in Utrecht, and Primož Roglič also took a stage himself. It looked like it was just back to where it was, 4 days in red. And then, a certain crash happened. So, Ewan, how would you rank now we have to think that it's Jumbo as well. So I would almost say room for improvement. That seems harsh. 2-stage win.
It does seem harsh, but I get the opening couple days of this race felt very like we were going to be in for the Jumbo-Visma experience once again, where they just completely dominate. We've seen it at other races since the Tour de France as well, like the Tour of Denmark, for instance. But to be honest, they didn't have the same flair. It was Roglic feeling very much like he was on his own for a lot of this race. They lost Kuss, which I think is a bad omen. Kuss has been by their side, whether it's Vinigo, whether it's Roglic, in a lot of their top level results. Every Vuelta has had Kuss involved, and Vinigo's Tour de France this year had Kuss involved. He crashed. Well, he wasn't in the race anymore after the first week. And once Roglic left, I think you realized quite how meh this team was and quite how depleted they were. They still got top tens, but they weren't really fighting for victories. And I think they should have left this race maybe with another victory under their belt instead of the Roglic and team time trial, given that they are Jumbo-Visma. But yeah, room for improvement. Roglic crashing and also that awful PR move.
Very awful. We have a video on the Cycling Day and Extra channel if you want to see more about that. But yeah, Intermarché won to Groupe, no Alexander Kristoff, no Gamay, Louis Meintjes, who did very well at the Tour de France coming here, finishing ultimately outside the top 10, but getting a stage along the way and also 2 top 3s as well. Ewan, we've seen, yeah, almost since last year's Vuelta, this ever-changing Intermarché want to Groupe, but how does this stack up with their growing ambitions?
Yeah, this was an interesting Intermarché team, given how strong of a race they had last year. It was a bit of a mixed bag. This really was just Louis Meintjes, I think, but also with circumstances, it's a very average Grand Tour for them, given how well they've done in the past couple. I don't even know if it's satisfied. No top 10 in GC the first time this year.
Yeah, fair enough. Alpecin de Koenig, the last Grand Tour with the superstar sprinter Tim Merlier. He didn't quite hit the form. We had Jay Vine, 2 stage wins from him, and in the polka dot jersey, it looked like he was going to definitely challenge for it at the end. But yeah, Ewan, again, Alpecin de Koenig performing well.
The Alpecin de Koenig performing particularly well, but the success came through unpredictable pathways, particularly Jay Vine in the mountains, who performed well, but 2 stage wins. Given how successful they've been over the past couple of years, maybe this missed the mark. In the sprints, they were fundamentally disappointing. That is one of their things, the sprints. Merlier should have got a stage win here. I think he just lost motivation. I think he lost it, really. Didn't care that much. That's disappointing for them. I say satisfied, bordering on room for improvement. I know Jay Vine was very impressive, but if he stayed in the race and got polka dots, it would be higher, in my opinion.
Well, going to a team that found themselves a bit in a lost place, Team Arkea Samsic, Nairo Quintana withdrawing from the team, so to focus on his legal challenge in another case. But yeah, Ewan, this was basically just a team without a head in a way.
Yeah, it was really just Dan McLean and Elie Jasper, the latter of whom just kept attacking too early mountain stages. He was capable of getting a podium, but he just kept making mistakes up in the break. So yeah, whether even here, definitely for sure. This is Arkea Samsic, who rode a solo Tour de France. Asterix, of course, involved.
Groupama FDJ, I kind of just want to put them in the bottom.
But they wore the red jersey for a day.
Does that mean that much for a team like them? They're not a pro-continental team. If it was one of the Spanish teams, maybe.
Given how strong this team start list is, it was incredibly underwhelming. But also Jake... Yeah, okay, I accept it.
Ineos Grenadiers, they had this amazing form. We saw it again where they had 3 riders in the top 10 early on. We didn't really know who they were working for. Carlos Rodriguez looked absolutely incredible. You've mentioned it several times. He had his crash, but Richard Carapaz, the star for them, last Grand Tour, winning 3 stages, polka dot jersey for the first time for the team and Ecuador. I don't know, Ewan. Is this high achievers? I don't think it's legendary, considering that this is a team that used to win the Vuelta.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really solid ride, isn't it? 3 stage wins from Carapaz, a top 10 from Rodriguez in what was a very difficult final week for him with a heavy crash and also getting pipped by Damon Arensman by 1 second. And then you saw on the final stage on the bonus second sprint, Joris Nunes and Carapaz were sprinting on behalf of their teammates to take up the points. But we did see a different side to Ineos. I think we saw the new side of Ineos, the younger, more exciting side. Also, bear in mind they had 2 big abandonments caused by COVID in Ethan Hayter and Pavel Sivakov. I think the outlook of this race would be incredibly different if we had Sivakov and Hayter here, particularly Sivakov, who was riding very, very strongly before he had to retire due to COVID. I think High Achievers is apt for this team of youngsters with many Grand Tour debutants. They performed very well.
Next one, I'm just going to put in the bottom because Burgos BH, not really here. Sorry, guys, but be more apparent if you want to be in our ranking video.
Victor Langalotti, the first Monegasque rider to wear a Grand Tour leaders jersey.
Yeah, fine. Room for improvement. Yeah, I think he was actually the first Monegasque to be in the Vuelta ever. So that's something. But Bahrain victorious, Ewan, a shadow of themselves. Basically just Fred Wright.
Yeah,
Fred Wright, incredible rider. He's going to be really good in the future. He is already.
Bahrain victorious, aka Fred Wright experience. It's hard when you put so much faith in a rider who's never taken a professional victory. Fred Wright has never won at the pro level, yet they were trying so hard to get that win. I don't know, it's just hard, isn't it? Fred Wright rode very well, but just kept missing out. I'm sure he's tired of seeing the backside of Mads Payson ahead of him. In Saint-Etienne at the Tour de France, and multiple times here at the Vuelta a España, Mads Payson just kept on beating him. And yeah, in a couple of years' time, I'm sure Fred Wright will grow tactically and will become more mature as a rider. But as a person, he's great. He's a great ambassador for the team during these difficult times for Bahrain victorious. And onwards and upwards, I guess. Let's just hope that Bahrain finds 7 other riders to help Fred Wright throughout a Grand Tour.
It's a shame that his Welter's kind of been overshadowed by the Roglic incident. But yeah, moving on. Team DSM, quite good Vuelta España, courtesy of Tiemann Arendtmann. We spoke about it before, just pipping Carlos Rodriguez by that 1 second and also winning a stage, 6th overall, 2 top 3s.
Yeah, congratulations, Tiemann Arendtmann. You placed your team and satisfied. He won the Queen stage. That's solid. Finally, Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Mads Pedersen, 3 stage wins, also the green jersey, the points classification jersey. First Dane to win the points classification in the Vuelta España, I think. Yeah, and this team, well, Mads Pedersen seems like he focused so long to get that Grand Tour stage win, denied in the 2020 Tour de France as the world champion twice on the first and the last stage, and then finally got the stage, and it seems like the floodgates just opened here.
Yeah, for Mads Pedersen, it felt like he got more than he bargained for. I don't think he expected to get 3 stage wins and the green jersey. Had a very good opening couple of days, but was looking like the bridesmaid with a number of silver medals. But just like Wout van Aert in the Tour de France, those eventually translated into wins and a green jersey. And he is very deserving thereof.
But anyways, that's it for this ranking video or podcast. If you're listening, make sure to drop a comment down below what you thought, if you disagree with any of our choices or agree, and like the video, subscribe to the channel, as many things are still coming out on the Cycling Dane about pro cycling for this season. And of course, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.